So the biggest thing I remember is catching myself afterwards. Everything's white. I look up and my mittens are ripped open and my fingers are just shreds and there's blood. I looked around, looked up towards Tower 4 and Regan was hanging there unconscious.
I don't remember much about it, but 5 days was a bit of a blur. But I've had these little snippets of what happened, and the first one in hospital was in the ED department with a nurse telling me not to fight the fact that I was gagging because they were trying to intubate me because my lungs were potentially collapsing. This is where I was on the tower. I think I was standing out here and my hand through the loops here. And I would have been standing out on the sheave assembly like this, belting the cable like that. So when she went, I assume that she just came straight up through here. Luckily that day I'd actually had done what we were supposed to do and hooked on like this rather than hooking my hooks onto the eyes here.
Climbed the tower, de-iced, always start in the middle and worked the way out. At this point it was starting to, I guess, come off all right. I remember being here, so I was here this way, beating this with my left hand that way. We'd chip away at it, a bit would fall off and it'd start moving down, and so I backed off like that. Go back out again, smash, and it started to move. Oh yeah, cool. And I think it was the third one. Reached out, smashed, and it just went straight from here. It just erupted straight up. So it came up, took my fingers off here. You can still see a bit of a rough mark under here.
When I fell, but I assumed that I just pitched backwards, and because I had quite a few fractures and things through my face, I must have either collected the sheave assembly there as it was helicoptering around because the cable wasn't there and it had left it with all sorts of force, so that thing was spinning around, and either that hit me or I swung into the tower and I would have just been dangling there.
Just that his positioning, he got a glancing blow off his arm and hand, and he got basically flicked out, and then yeah, that it must have hit his head at the time, and that knocked him unconscious, and he was hanging upside down in his harness. And then from there, that's where we kicked in, and we had a guy, Mark Blair, down the bottom, who was, you know, very experienced with alpine skills. So we were able to sort of coordinate from where we were to get him up there. He climbed the tower and basically set up an anchor and did a cutaway and lowered him down, and then we performed, you know, a basic assessment of him and packaged him and flew him out.
And then I remember falling back in the tower, so the haul rope went up and down, everything went white, so couldn't see over there, it was just white. And I remember the tower coming to me and I fell backwards, I think, like this, but I remember catching myself and being off like this, hanging down. I had that. I managed to get, I think, seated on here and then round like this, and everything stopped shaking, and I looked up and here was my mittens gone and these were just rags. But then we did a lot of stuff, I guess, getting to this point through maintenance that was outside of that. So yeah, I've no doubt that we developed habits that were probably not good. It was known to us as insofar as, yep, you can have releases and it'll hop, but not like that. Not the whole lift at once and with such violence. That in itself is, you're too close. I think the newer ones now, they've got, you know, nice walkways, so you're away, and if you look at the natural, so ever since then we've always been very good about the red zone being in here and around here. So as long as you're inside this, you're in a safe area. So it's a case of being able to stay back here and de-ice. Then if it does go, you're not in the firing line.
But yeah, it's certainly a life-changing scenario from that moment, really, wasn't it?
Yeah. So you were what? How long were you off?
I was in hospital for a month. At that stage, I think my first 24 hours in hospital, I had 20 hours of surgery time, just trying to put veins and everything back in to keep my hand alive. I think I was really lucky that I had the head of department was in the plastics and reconstructive team that day, because they did have a discussion about amputation. So from that moment after the accident happened, I think a few things fell into place that we were sort of quite lucky with, really. Yeah. And then I think I came back to work about 3 months after. Still had pins in my hand, I couldn't put a jacket on, so I could only work in the fine weather.
Looking back at it, what do you think we learnt from it?
Yeah, I don't know, I think we sort of came out that we're probably under-resourced for that storm cycle, for the amount of ice that we were getting. It was a massive event. I think that year they lost the bottom end of the Knoll Ridge fell over, didn't it?
Yeah, so the very next day the national de-iced itself. Yeah. Caused a bit of damage. The assemblies did a bit of helicoptering, but yeah, it basically sorted itself out. And then yeah, I think it was a week later maybe that the Knoll Ridge, the tension ram pin let go, and the whole station basically
launched forward,
into the snow.
So that sort of gives an indication of the amount of ice and everything that was around. I think we didn't have any chairs on the line, which would have, kept that cable from whipping quite so bad. Probably would have kept everything on the assemblies.
That was one of the I guess the rules that we made after that, was that chairs on by 1st of May. And then we structured all the maintenance around that. It was kind of good actually, because it helped us with the other lifts as well. We sort of set similar goals. Yeah,
some targets. Yeah. And I think also possibly around the T's as well, getting their boxes on before.
Yeah, as soon as the cable's on, the box is on.
Yeah. And also possibly, reviewing the need for de-icing sometimes.
Well, that's it. Given that the ice in the following week or whatever, it sorted itself out, didn't it? I mean, yeah, there was damage, but the ice ended up all coming off by itself, and there's a bit of structural damage, but that all got fixed. No one was hurt.
Yeah, and it's a bit easier to repair a sheave assembly or the wiring on the tower than something that doesn't repair quite so well.
Yeah, there was the call that was made that okay, no, we're not touching this. If it wasn't, even if it came down to weather, or it was thinking about that emergency response. If something does go wrong, can we get people out?
To date, I've had about 55 hours of surgery time to try and get my hand working and my toes as well. I still have a little bit of problem.
If you don't have to do it, then don't do it. And I think that was one of the big learnings as well. It'll de-ice itself eventually if it gets away on you. If you don't get it early and knock it in and fix it, and it gets away on you, then it's knowing when to say enough's enough. We don't need to put ourselves in that position.
When you're dealing with friends and work colleagues, it's pretty emotional, and you never want to see your friends in that sort of situation, but you do what you have to do at the time, and it's never far from your thoughts when you hear about other stuff going on, and you just hope that things like that do not happen again. and certainly with those engineering solutions of putting the chairs on, that contributed a lot to that not happening again. But yeah, I still think about it, and we're lucky, because we had a good outcome.
Yeah.
Hey,
Walked
and
away from it.
we walked, you flew. So knowing that those conditions still existed out there, it was kind of scary to actually get up and go out there and do it again.